I've spent the last 2 years trying to find my painting style. I thought I had to choose between clean painting or Grimdark, but eventually I realized I was asking myself the wrong questions. Because your painting style isn't something that you choose, it's something you discover along the way. So today we are gonna paint these 2 miniatures to show you exactly what I mean. There's a reason I picked these 2 miniatures to talk about this. My painting style has evolved a lot over the time. Leagues of Votann was my first army, and I started when I came back to the hobby a couple of years ago. By that time, I didn't even know about the different painting styles. I was just learning basic techniques and brush control. I thought painting clean was simply what good painting looked like. When you start, the only thing you can do to grow is copy other people's painting styles. Every new painting video discovered me a new technique that felt like the solution to all my problems, until I actually tried myself and discovered it was way harder than it seemed on camera. Back then I didn't know the underpainting technique, but today I'm starting from a dark purple color just to introduce a little bit of color in the shadows from the very beginning. I also didn't have an airbrush back then. As you can see, now I am relying heavily on it for the main white color of the armor. I remember trying to glaze white over grey to paint these armors, which was extremely hard and looked like shit. I also remember struggling a lot with orange. I kept adding black and white to create shadows and highlights, and it always looked dull. Then one day I watched a video, I think it was this exact miniature, where someone shaded the orange with purple and highlighted it with yellow. It completely blew my mind. I remember coming home from work the next day and repainting every orange panel on my Votann warriors. Every painter starts by copying, because you can't really decide which techniques fit your style until you've actually tried them. Copying definitely isn't the opposite of finding your own style. It's how you build the vocabulary you'll eventually use to express it. I could have never thought about painting orange like this by myself, and it's a trick I can now use whenever I want in any future project, or even experiment and do a similar thing but with different colors. You can also see how I use those same purples and magentas on the face to create an overall ambience for the piece. That's something I didn't know about when I painted my first Votann, but I have learned it along the way and now I can apply it here. Looking back, I'm actually glad I started with a clean painting style. It forced me to learn brush control because there was nowhere to hide my mistakes. So, if you ask me, yeah, starting with a cleaner style is probably the best way to start painting Warhammer. But it doesn't mean everyone should start like this. If you already know you love Grimdark, there's no point on painting things you don't like as much just to learn techniques. This reminds me of something completely unrelated. When I was a kid, I wanted to learn guitar. I loved rock music, so naturally I wanted to play electric guitar. But my parents had a different idea. Everyone told them classical guitar was better for beginners. So I spent 3 years learning it, and I was fine. But it wasn't until I switched to electric guitar that I got obsessed with it, and I started getting better incredibly faster. So back to the miniature painting, the only answer to the question, which is the best style for a beginner, is the one that makes you want to paint tomorrow. Funny enough, the next step on this clean miniature is an enamel wash. Most people would call enamel a Grimdark technique, but techniques don't really have a style, they're just tools. It's the way you use them that creates a style. In this case, since I wanted a clean result, I used a gloss varnish before, so the pigments stay only in the recesses and helped with readability. Now I only need to do the metallics and we're done with this guy. So you might think I only started painting clean because it suits the Leagues of Votann faction. And you might be right, but I don't think that's the whole story. After Votann, I painted a few Age of Sigmar spearheads. These flesh-eater courts are basically zombies, yet I painted them in this color scheme that's almost the opposite of Grimdark. My Skaven were still pretty clean too, although that's where I started experimenting with rusty metals. It wasn't until I started my Ork army that I really embraced Grimdark. And yeah, dirt, battle damage and weathering look incredible on these bad boys. But I don't think I fully abandoned my old style. I think I carried parts of it with me. I still love highly saturated colors. I still want my armies to stand out on the table. Now I just combine them with dirt, battle damage and weathering. I feel like strong colors make the armies pop much more on the table, and even though it might not be very realistic, I really like how super saturated colors like these skin tones contrast with the dirt and weathering I used in the rest of the elements. For years I felt guilty about starting so many armies. I kept thinking I should have just finished one first, but looking back, every army taught me something different. Different colors, different textures, different techniques, and eventually all these things started mixing together. Maybe this contrasting combination of flashy colors with grimdark finishes could be my personal style. Only way to know it is to keep practicing it and explore how far it can take me. One thing that helped me develop my own style more than anything else was constantly trying new techniques. Right now I am trying a new way to paint my yellow details. I've recently started to do them with a pink undercoat and spraying white ink on top as a base for Imperial Fist contrast paint. Here I decided to do it with a brush and do lots of tiny lines and scratches to create some texture from the very beginning. When I came back to the hobby, I actually had more time to watch tutorials on YouTube than I had to paint. Every new video made me think, this is the technique I've been missing. So I kept trying something different on almost every miniature I painted. Learning new things has always been one of the biggest reasons I actually sit down and paint. And after a while, something interesting started happening. Some techniques just stayed with me, while others slowly disappeared. I realized I was reaching for the airbrush almost every project because I genuinely enjoy using it. On the other hand, even though I love oils and enamels, sometimes I just don't feel like waiting hours for them to dry, so I naturally look for other solutions instead. And there are techniques I never expected to become part of my painting at all. A year ago, I would have never guessed that doing little scratches for battle damage or using dry pigments would become such an important part of almost every miniature I finish, but now I absolutely love doing it. You never really know which technique will become part of your style until you actually try it, and I think that's part of the magic of it. When I was just starting, I didn't know anyone who painted Warhammer. One day, a friend introduced me to another painter at a party. We showed each other pictures of our miniatures, and he painted in a much more grimdark style than I did. I remember telling him I actually prefer thinner paint jobs, and he just smiled and said, "You'll change your mind." Well, it's been 2 years and somehow he was completely right. Not because clean painting is worse, I just realized that I enjoy telling stories with weathering and battle damage more than I enjoy chasing perfection. I usually paint for gaming rather than for display or competitions. Most of my miniatures only need to look good from across the table, not under a macro lens. But every now and then, I like to slow down. I spend hours refining tiny details that no one else will probably ever notice. And every single time I do that, I come back to my gaming miniatures being a slightly better painter. At the same time, painting quickly teaches you something completely different. It forces you to ask yourself, what's actually important? You start looking for shortcuts. Not lazy shortcuts, smart shortcuts. The kind that make a miniature look 90% as good in half the time. For me, the right balance is painting mostly for the tabletop, but every once in a while choosing one miniature and giving it absolutely everything I've got. Because speed teaches efficiency and perfection teaches precision, and your own style usually lives somewhere in between. So I finished this Votann exactly the way I would have painted it 2 years ago, and I was ready to leave it like this, but then I realized something. This whole video has been about finding your own painting style, and my style has definitely changed, so why would I pretend it hasn't? I'm not going to turn it into a Grimdark miniature. That wouldn't make sense next to the rest of my Votann army, but I'm going to let the painter I've become leave a small mark on it. Just a few scratches, a little bit of battle damage, some pigments around the boots and the base, nothing that changes the miniature too much, but if I painted this army today, this is how it would probably look. Now I'm curious, what's the technique that has become part of your painting style after trying it? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into battle damage and weathering, check out this video next, where I paint my Dakar rig in a heavily weathered style. See you there!